Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu Jitsu Show. I'm Rob,
I'm Randy.
and we've got another special guest with us today, Mr. Charles Harriott, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu globetrotter extraordinaire himself. The man has been all over the place. The man has taught all over the place. So, Charles, thanks for jumping on the show with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's do it.
All right. So, as we do with everybody else, before we get started, could you just kind of give everybody your background, like martial arts wise, and kind of how you
All
got started
right.
with jiu jitsu and stuff like that?
So I'll try my best to keep it short. It's a long story. So started martial arts when I was like 4 because I saw the Ninja Turtles movie and my dad did not find ninja school. So like a garage-based Taekwondo gym was the best he could do. From there, that school became a regular gym. Then it was bought by a guy who taught karate. Then I learned some kickboxing. Then I dabbled in some judo. Then, actually, the judo happened after I went to college, took a break from martial arts, did some breakdancing, stumbled into an MMA gym, ended up doing this odd style called Universal Martial System, which was like an MMA kind of mixed martial arts system. Then ended up doing judo proper, then finally ended up with a gi jiu-jitsu instructor, and that would have been around like probably 2009 or 10. And then since then, slowly jiu-jitsu ate all my other martial arts up. I used to do kung fu and everything else, and slowly but surely, I've whittled myself down that I really mainly just do jiu-jitsu. I do gi and no gi, and I'll still occasionally kickbox or occasionally do some karate. But jiu-jitsu has slowly enveloped more and more pieces of my life. In the year 2017, I left my day job. 2018, I started traveling the world. Um, Late 2018, people started paying me, which was nice because I was, yeah, running out of money. And now, since the pandemic, I've traveled with my fiance, soon to be wife, doing jiu-jitsu, and now we're making a shift and settling down here in Florida. So probably about I'm 38 now, so that's 34 years of martial arts and like 20-ish years of grappling, depending on if you count when I started no-gi, judo, or Brazilian jiu-jitsu on the timeline. So lifelong martial artist, used to be a 8.5 year regular old office worker, but now I wander about teaching jiu-jitsu, and I'm making a shift into staying more in America and teaching via Zoom. I have Zoom seminars that I do, Patreon where I do Zoom private lessons and custom videos, and then I make instructionals for BJJ fanatics. And then in my hometown here, Gainesville, Florida, I teach private lessons and some group classes. And most recently, I've been big on doing these 6-week judo courses that I've been teaching. So that's the model, just kind of hodgepodging around as much jiu-jitsu and grappling and fun as I can make work as my life adapts.
No, I absolutely do count the judo part of it because grappling's grappling. I did
Yeah.
enjoy that you threw your breakdancing in there too because that always
Hey,
do.
people underestimate how much of an impact that had. Like, I can't, I cannot overstate how much being able to be comfortable with moving around on the ground the way that you do in breakdancing or b-boying footwork, how much that applies to moving around on the ground in jiu-jitsu. I'd say that had the biggest impact on like creativity and like fluidity of movement and combining combos, as well as just a sense of up and down and inverting your body in different and strange angles. Like that comfort I had with being on the floor from dancing had a massive impact on how fast it was to learn my position in space. So like not being swept is easy when being upside down isn't scary.
No, that makes
Yeah,
sense. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Randy.
yeah, the proprioception, right? That's like the
Oh
big
yeah.
for it. I mean, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. When you look at wrestlers and they come to jiu-jitsu, I feel like the learning curve isn't quite as steep for this for a lot of the same reasons because they're not foreign to generating force and moving and agility on the ground. So I can't imagine how much of an advantage it is for you with the breakdancing because I mean, you look at float passing and different variations of passing, especially. I bet you your balance, agility, and proprioception's off the charts, man.
I always kind of describe it as like it's a internal mind-body connection, which like wrestlers have, I have for breakdancing. if you ever grappled with someone who was a high level football player, like college or higher, their mind body connection is just so high compared to someone who's kind of been couch potatoing it most of their life. Like any athlete, anybody who's been really attuned with their mind and body connection, they'll always pick up sport and jiu-jitsu in particular, just better than the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a surprise. I know we've talked about it before on the show, but I know it is kind of interesting the amount of people that me, Randy, and you too, Charles, know that just have gone from like one major sport. Because I always think about Brad and like playing soccer, and then he just like translates it over to jujitsu for whatever reason.
Yep.
It just like works out really well for him because he was coaching and playing, and some of the other guys I've met too, like a couple of guys I trained with. One of them was a huge football player, and just his body awareness on the mat is like I'm a bit jealous of it. I thought I had a pretty good advantage, only wrestling for a couple of years, but the 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 spatial awareness that he has and like the body awareness that he has combined is something that is like it puts him way ahead of just other people, like you said, who just kind of couch potatoed it most of their life.
That's
But
why
the
they
crazy thing, go ahead.
that's why they tell kids when they're younger, get into as many different sports as you can early on. Like gymnastics is like a solid
Oh
base. And I
yeah.
think a lot of parents now are starting to tap into that. It's kind of like, hey, kids are super young. The first thing you get them into, if you get them into gymnastics, you're setting a foundation for every other sport they might get into.
Yeah, there's a couple of people I can think of when I think of that one. There's a woman, I think her name is Carolyn Weber. She runs a program called Wrestling Prep, and it's effectively like wrestling focused gymnastics. But because I don't know what her degree is in, but she's very highly educated, she talks about teaching children and adults and even geriatric people how to fire your muscles in particular orders, which just unlocks certain things that would feel impossible. At least I know for me as a jiu-jitsu coach, a big part of what I do is kind of convincing people who think they can't that like they're capable of more. And I think that Carolyn Weber and her program like really take it to the next level because she'll have people that are like 60 plus years old doing full bridges and like walking in bridges and doing back handsprings and stuff. And it's quite wild. And her program is made for mostly youth wrestlers, but she gets adults and a few other people. But the other person I thought of when you said that was also just in the case of regular gymnastics. I'm forgetting the name right now, but just looking at your body and like, okay, I need to twist my body this way and open my shoulder that way, and that's going to give me access to this. So for me, with the breakdancing background, it was always looking at patterns and understanding that if it doesn't feel easy, I'm probably doing it wrong. Versus kind of that try hard piece of you, just like if I do it faster and harder, I'm going to get it. Oftentimes leads to you just hurting yourself or gaining a bad habit.
No, it makes perfect sense. And it's I do like the whole like the try hard method usually does get you injured with that. But it is interesting, like, you're talking about your teaching methods and stuff. And um something I want to talk a bit about was, I talked with Randy a bit before this, but basically it felt like that whole year in 2018, which you did bring up, was like you were just out teaching. Like I know ran into you
Oh
multiple
yeah, it was
times
an
in
adventure.
Europe. Like, what is that like? Like what is it like going from just like you said, office job to now you're traveling the world doing Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, teaching at camps, meeting people. Like, what were some of the stressful points? Or some of like the stuff that people would never get to experience unless they do it? Like, what was your main, like your overall takeaway from that?
Well, I would say the way that I did it is probably not the way that a lot of other people have done it. Because I've back in 2018, 2019, 2020, I was kind of like almost like jiu-jitsu nomad evangelizing. Like anybody who would listen to me, I'd be like, "Hey guys, you don't understand that you can just leave. Like you can just do this. Like it's not that hard." Like I was, and everybody I spoke to, I was, it was kind of like when the televangelists or not, or the like someone knocks on your doors, like, have you heard the good news? Like, that's how annoying I was. And all my friends would look at me like, yeah, I'm just gonna stay at my gym and teach my students so that I don't have to live in a backpack. Like, what's wrong with you, Charles? I'm like, dude, it's the same. It cost me less in plane tickets than I would in rent. So I rented my place out and now I'm on a backpack. So I did it like the super low cost way because after leaving my job, I had quite a bit of savings because I'd lived kind of beneath my means, but I didn't want to use the savings. So the challenge I set myself in 2019 was that I have this saving. I want to only live off of what I make teaching jiu-jitsu. And so I also was not famous. Like I at that point in time, I taught one BJJ Globetrotters camp, and I had like parlayed that combined with a lucky break at Bernardo Farias that I had my first instructional that had just come out, like Locks 101, which came out like a week or two after John Danaher's instructional. John Danaher's 8-hour instructional for $250. Charles Harriott's 2-hour instructional for $50. So I was literally like the Walmart leg lock instructional that you could get. Like you can listen to John for 8 hours, or you can listen to me for 2 hours. And so that was my first gig with Fanatics, but I was still didn't have much of a name. I was trying to figure it out, and I was like really, really nervous, but things just always kind of worked out. So I went off to Austria, and a lot of just little things you don't think about. Like in Austria, even though everyone speaks English, like lots of stuff is in German. And so you need to at least have Google Translate. And the SIM cards, the international SIM cards were just kind of starting to get better in 2018. Like now it's with this app called Airalo. It's really, really easy. You just open your phone, boom, bang, boom, you have internet. But back then it was still a little spotty. It was way better than like when I first traveled in 2005. But what I would say is it really makes life feel longer, for lack of a better word. Because the amount of living that I did in the first 6 months of 2019 felt like 3 or 4 years. Because just I'm changing context so often. Because I thought back to when I had my corporate job, every time I got a promotion or changed careers felt like a new chapter. And I was pretty ambitious. And so I had a new job at that within the company in 8.5 years, like every year to year and a half. But now I'm only in any given city for 7 to 14 days, sometimes less, sometimes 2 or 3 days. And so every time I enter a new city, it's like my brain is taking it like a new chapter. And so I'm in Austria, I'm seeing snow. I fell asleep on the car ride. I wake up and we have Russell, who's an American guy. He's young. He's in the, I want to say the army. I hope it's not a different branch. Um, and he rents an automatic car. But he's struggling driving to the mountains, so he gives Carla, who's a local German, his car to drive. Well, she's never driven an automatic before, so she keeps accidentally stepping on the brake because she's used to the clutch. And then it snowed in, and like they apparently have this like harrowing experience, almost falling off the mountain. But I'm so jet lagged that I just fall asleep and I wake up, and we're at the sports hall, and I'm like, oh, this is great, thanks guys. So I'm just so blissfully unaware of what was going on, and we get there and it snowed in for the first time, but I still get to teach, and people are liking what I'm saying, and like I don't know, it's just very surreal. What I would say is everything that I did, I just kind of took the hard work that I was doing from my regular job and was like, let's just put this into jiu-jitsu. I had spreadsheets of every single class that I taught, what I taught, how many people showed up, how they took the class, and then I would kind of go back and look and see how I was doing. Especially 2019, I was crazy organized. And then at the Globetrotters camps, Christian didn't really give much feedback. He was just like, yeah, teach your classes, be nice to people, enjoy yourself. And I'm like, well, do you want me to do this? He's like, yeah, if you want to do that, you can do it. Like anytime I had an idea, he's like, you can do that if you want. Like, do I have to? He's like, no, you don't have to. And so it was very interesting because the Globetrotters vibe was so open. You could do as much or as little as you want. I was expected to teach 1 or 2 classes in that week and generally be around. But besides that, like I could be a crazy person like I was in the beginning and go to almost every class, every open mat, be obsessed with jiu-jitsu. Meanwhile, lots of other people are just here on vacation. So they're going out on the mountain and skiing and stuff. And I was like, in my head, this is my challenge to myself. Like I have to not starve. So I want to go skiing, but the ski pass is like $60. And I'm like, I can afford that, but then what if I need that later to fly? So I don't want to pay for a ski pass. But I'm also worried, like, if I break my leg, like that's the end of this Jiu-Jitsu World Tour. Like that's the end of it. Like I have to go home. So I was like being kind of balancing this adventure with not wanting it to end too quickly. So then from there I made lots of friends at that Arizona at that camp there. Ended up wandering over to other cities, taught a seminar in random towns. Awkward story. Ended up accidentally teaching jiu-jitsu in the town where Hitler was born, and I had no idea. And so, like, I'm on the border between Austria and Germany. I teach a seminar, and I put a big post on social media, like, I'm here in this town. And people are like, what in the world are you doing at the town that, like neo-Nazis make pilgrimages to? Like, why are you there? I'm like, I don't know. A nice guy said that he wanted me to teach jiu-jitsu at the gym. And, like, it was a great gym. They obviously they were not neo-Nazis. Like, I'm very much not Nazi friendly just by how I look. And,
Yeah.
they were great. I had a great time, but just ending up in random places and realizing that everywhere that I went, like it was all just so new to me. Like Germany and Austria both love Turkish food, so like they call it doner kebab, and I learned the difference between like a doner and a durum, and then like the special durum and a lahmacun, and like all these different. I because for me, my whole trip is at this point is pretty much jujitsu, nice people, food. That's all I'm doing. I'm not really doing anything else. I'm not really that much of a drinker. Like I'll have a beer because I realize teaching in Germany and Austria, like the students will want you to drink beer with them. And like, so fast forward, I'm still traveling around. I end up in Dresden. And I had met this nice guy in Dresden. I teach a seminar at his gym. And afterwards, everyone's like, you have to drink with us, coach. And I'm like, I don't really drink. It's like, well, just one. Turns out in Dresden, one beer is a liter. And they give me this massive stein of beer. And they're like, come on, coach.
That's how they get you, man.
And so, like, but at that point in the very beginning, I didn't have much. I would literally teach for next to nothing or just whatever people would pay me as long as you just paid for my bus ticket. So I'd hop on a train or a Flixbus and like I remember after Heidelberg once someone wanted me to teach somewhere. I'm like, where is it? Oh, it's a 14-hour Flixbus. Sure. I just get on the Flixbus, fall asleep, wake up in a new town, and I'm teaching jiu-jitsu. So in the beginning, it was a lot of just literally posting each place that I was and being like, jiu-jitsu is fun. And I'd end up at Globetrotters camps. Even before Globetrotters, I went to a ZR team camp in Balaton, Hungary, which was very, very different than a Globetrotters camp. It was very much like everyone here was strong competitors trying to be world champions. Doesn't matter what age, weight class, belt level. Everyone was like had that world champion like gleam in their eyes. Whereas you go to Globetrotters and like there might be one or two competitors and some people that are serious, but most people are just trying to have a good time and be friends. And so seeing that contrast, and then I'm trying to think of what it is. Like mine's always been so random. Like my whole thing has been making sure that I make people think that, and I try to also make it true, like that I don't suck at jiu-jitsu and I'm not an asshole. That's kind of my whole thing. Like if y'all, as long as those two things are true, I think you'll invite me back. And almost everything for the longest time was just word of mouth. Even though I was posting on my Instagram that I was traveling and teaching seminars. And I did have the BJJ Finance instructional. Like very, very few, if any, of my seminars and contacts were made from social media. It was almost always I met somebody and it's like a friend of a friend or this person, hey, my this blue belt at my gym told me about you. Can you come here? And just saying yes. I think the biggest thing was like, even if it sounds crazy, just I said yes to a bunch of ridiculous things and I didn't die and it worked out. Because even thinking about a lot of the places, like people would tell me, like, why are you going there? Like, whether it be because of this color of my skin, like I went to countries where people are like, they're racist, don't go. I get there and they're amazing. And I kind of have a lucky bit because I'm always there with a local. So some local wants me there and they show me around and I get great food and meet cool people, see amazing architecture and nature. And like that's been the life. I'd say that gyms are they're incredibly different, but also all the same all over the world. And what I mean by that is like you don't have to speak the language as long as you know how to tie your belt if you're doing gi or you know how to keep yourself safe doing no gi, you can enter almost any gym on earth and kind of understand what's going on. Maybe they'll be super traditional. There's lots of bowing and lots of drilling. Maybe they're super untraditional. There's not so much bowing. There might just be rolling or maybe a bunch of eco games. But the whole spectrum is there, and like most places are they're crazy welcoming and you will occasionally have to like deal with the whole, as a black belt, people are going to be hunting you, and like the young under, I say like under 30 brown belts are like the natural predator of the older black belt because they're coming for your head. Um, and so yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. Maybe you guys ask me some questions and I can give you something more guided. So I'm kind of just dropping out random stuff from the
No,
journey.
no, it's good because, well, one, I gotta go back. Russell's in the Marine Corps, and he's actually 2 hours from me in North Carolina. He just moved, like he moved out there recently.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, so it's good to see him on occasion. But no, I think you really encompass kind of like what I wanted to get out of that question, because anybody can say like, yeah, I saved my money and I just went all over the place. And then that's was it wrong? Like, no, it's the answer, but you gave a perspective. And I think that's something like, I was fortunate enough to like do Globetrotters. In fact, I'll be in Arizona in November, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. So
But
actually, let's talk about that money part. So like in the
okay.
case of me, it's not so much that I saved money and went all over the place. Like I did, but I wasn't saving up to travel. Like I was saving because like I was very much like a hater of debt. And so like I didn't like any time I was in debt. And so any chance that I made a little bit more money, I tried to pay stuff off. Like the second I got my first real job, like I was going after those student loans as fast as I could, trying to get rid of those. And like I always bought crappy used cars. So I never had a car payment. Or I got lucky that like my sister gave me her car because she didn't want any more, like stuff like that. And I'd be okay driving a jalopy. And so all of that allowed me to have some money saved up. But like I said, the challenge for myself was like I could use that money, or I could try to make this into something sustainable, because no matter how much money you have, maybe not no matter how much, like obviously if you're a billionaire, but like I never had that kind of much money, that money saved up. I had a little bit of money saved up, and I knew that if I lived off that, then this trip was going to come to an end really quickly. So I Airbnb'd out my place, and then that was okay. Better than Airbnb a place, honestly, was renting it out to some friends because you trust your friends not to destroy your place. And because they were my friends, I was like, hey, what do you guys think? I have a couch clause. Like, what the hell's a couch clause? Well, the couch clause says that you are renting your room. So there's two rooms that rented out to two of my friends, but the couch is mine within 24 hours notice whenever I want it. So if I ever want to crash on my own couch, I can crash on my own couch. So I'm like, the last thing I want to do is to come back home and be homeless because I've rented my place out. And so like, 'cause that's horrible. So my friends were cool with it, so I'd randomly come back to town and crash on my own couch without having to pay for it. And like that was nice. And then also like talking, I chose really like good friends who took care of my place really well. Like my friends Chris and Yoshi, like my house has never been that clean before or since when they lived there. They're the neatest dudes I've ever met in my life. And so it was really nice to come home. And like obviously I wasn't trying to like gouge them on the price. So like it's kind of a give and a take. All I wanted to make sure was that I could pay my mortgage, and I didn't need to make any money on anything. So as long as I could pay my mortgage, so I kind of left it alone. And anything that they need to fix, just kind of like doing right by people has really been kind of the other secret of it. Because it's really easy to just kind of take, and if you just keep taking, eventually like people get sick of you, right? So always trying to make sure anything that I enter into, I always love a win-win. So my friends needed a place to stay. I made sure like I was charging them like what was normal, if not less. So like they're getting a deal, but they're taking care of my place, and we're friends, and we don't have to sour the relationship. In the case of teaching seminars, especially when I had no name, because in the beginning people would be like, "Are you world champion? No. What have you won? Nothing you care about." Okay, well then why the hell would we want to bring you here? Like, well, can I come to open mat? Yeah, and just come to open mat, roll with people, show I don't suck at jiu-jitsu, show that I'm not trying to injure people. Because I know a lot of people way better than me at jiu-jitsu, especially competition-wise, who like they're like, Charles, like no one wants me to seminar. I'm like, well, yeah, you injured three of their students. Why would they want to have you back? Like you broke people's limbs. Like, yeah, well, I had to win. Like, well, yeah, but this isn't a competition. It's not a competition. Like it's, and I think that's kind of the interesting thing because you do want to win, but like it's really to go back to the breakdancing things. Like one of the big things that I got, two big things I got from being a b-boy is that there's a statement from a song that says it's not what you do, it's how it's done. And another piece of it is like you don't want to just take what you learn and spit it right back out. Right? So for example, especially when I first started, like Danaher, everyone was staring at John Danaher and Gordon Ryan. They were having like their coming out moment in the jiu-jitsu world because they were getting hated on for a long time. But once Gordon won ADCC, there was no denying it anymore. And so everyone was trying to be a clone of them. Had I just been a clone of them, well, then why would you have me there? You should just buy John's instructional. I had to make sure that I was trying my best to take what I was taking in, whether it be learning from Pre and Chris and Christian and Brad and all the other Globetrotters instructors who influenced me. Greg Wood with the Skywalker Pass, like all of these people were doing interesting things. I was like, well, I want to take and like put my spin on it. Like, what's my contribution? And I kind of narrowed in on like, I want to be able to take world-class jiu-jitsu or amazing things that people think are too hard and complicated and be able to package them in a way that anybody can absorb them. If that means slicing up into smaller pieces, fine. If that means creating games around them, fine. If that means describing the big picture behind them, which I'm really big on, with choke theory, joint lock theory, etc. Even if it's just like little stupid things like the taco grip, because like the talking about tacos, then realizing in Europe that some countries have no idea what a taco even is. So I have to call it something else. Like this is the gyros grip, or the falafel grip, whatever it has to be for your local place. Like as a teacher, that was a big part of it. But I really do think that the big thing is through the Globetrotters, through mat surfing, you can get a free or almost free place to stay almost anywhere. Apart from the super big cities, right? Like your New York, your London. London's probably the worst. Finding a place to sleep in London is almost impossible. So like, unless you have a friend that is a friend, like it's just such an expensive town. I'll usually end up still in a hostel or a hotel or sleeping on somebody's couch, like just because it's such a busy, dense city. At least this was the last time I was in London. I haven't done it in a little while. Whereas like when you get to smaller towns, it's super easy. Like the Midwest in the US or like smaller parts of the places like where they're not jiu-jitsu meccas. Jiu-jitsu meccas are not really the places that I'm usually gonna get a lot of work because there's a million pieces of jiu-jitsu. So, but when I'm willing to go to, Kentucky and Iowa and the middle of Montana, South Dakota, I'm willing to go to Eastern Europe, really anywhere that people will have me. It's like just that willingness to adventure out has led to a lot of good things. And so just trying to keep on being authentic and like improving myself and not ever thinking that I've made it has kind of helped to keep going.
Yeah, I want to, before I went like Randy, I just want to apologize. That wasn't the intent of my question. It was like you gave us more experiences than just like I tried not to spend a lot of money in traveling places. Like you gave us
Oh
the
yeah,
full on,
yeah,
yeah. That's what I was trying to like saying. Like that's what I appreciate about it is because you know we've all traveled, we've all like dropped into different gyms, and like oh how was the trip? Visited a city, yeah, but no, like what really happened? Like
yeah.
you randomly get picked up and people are like you say, coach, you got to drink with us, or hey, check this out. This is my favorite restaurant to go to. Places that if you went just as like a tourist, you never get that experience because you're getting like treatment from the locals. Being a good person pays dividends
Oh
because you should
yeah.
just be a good person in general. And it just be a good person, know your jujitsu. Like you said, I mean, that's really the key to it.
That's it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I think really the food's a big one. Like, but keep going. I can tell you a million random dishes and places. Like, I don't know why he said that. I thought of Käsespätzle, which is like this South
Oh,
German like cheesy noodle. You said I was just like I would never have known about that if it wasn't for the fact that like one of the people from Globetrotters was like, "Hey, you want to get some food?" Sure. Oh, my family is from this region of Germany.
When you go somewhere new, because you talked a little bit about going to different countries and obviously the cultural differences, and people may not know who you are. And you mentioned going to open mats and that kind of being a way to introduce yourself to the gym, which I think is pretty cool. but like a lot of instructors have some kind of like icebreaker or something they can do to kind of really capture the attention of the students when they first start teaching. Like what's your thing?
Oh.
What's your thing that you do that kind of draws people in, or how do you start your class with a new population that you haven't taught to before?
I don't think I do anything. I think I just show up and act like I've been there the whole time. I like I don't I really I don't know. Like Rob, you were there the first time I taught in your gym. I don't think I did anything like that. I think I just show up and start teaching. I usually will do a warm up. Like I'm very keen on safety. So depending on what I'm teaching, I'll usually do something to warm up the part of the body that's going to be possibly abused. So if I'm teaching an inversion seminar, I will go through and do like neck mobilization and shoulder mobilization. I don't usually do warm-ups, but like I'm doing leg locks, we're gonna do ankle mobilization. So like I'll do a little bit of solo movement drills and body warming up and usually tell a story about why that is. And because almost everything that I do was added because something happened, right? So like one of my students got injured when I was trying to straight ankle lock them because they spun out and they hurt their knee. Now I tell that story every time when I'm teaching leg locks, like, hey, people think heel hooks are dangerous, but like straight ankle locks are allowed at white belt. You could hurt yourself if you panic. And same thing with like, I had a student who had been hit by a car and a different student been hit by, who fell off of a horse. And so they had nerve damage. So they couldn't feel themselves being heel hooked. So that's a new thing that I add there. But as far as the opening of the seminar, I usually just open with, "Hi, I'm Charles. I'm here to teach you whatever the topic is. Like, please, like, feel free to just call me, if you need to say professor or sensei or coach, whatever you want. Just I have to kind of know you're talking to me. Anything beyond like, hey, stupid, I'll probably respond. Um, and just try to let them see from the beginning that one, I'm open to questions and they don't have to be so serious. Two, that the class can evolve any direction they want it. If that's on the menu, some coaches want me to teach what I plan on teaching, but often I'm like, hey, especially when there's smaller seminars, like obviously at Globetrotters, sometimes it can be upwards of 150 people I'm teaching at once. I try to kind of stay on track. But when I have a smaller seminar, like 10, 20 people, I'll almost always be like, hey, here's what the plan is for the day. But if you guys want to stay longer in any particular thing, we can. Or if you want to get larger breadth of understanding, or if you want more time to roll, if you want more Q&A, like the whole point of me being here is to have an impact on your gym. And it doesn't mean that I have to like go through my 10-step song and dance the same way every day because every gym population is going to operate differently. Um, I will occasionally ask if people are okay with swearing, just because some gyms are very, very conservative, and other gyms, like I taught a gym at a priest's house once, actually twice. I've now te taught at priest houses, and so obviously vulgarity not as appreciated in that environment. Whereas I've also taught it in places where like everything is being said and everyone's very like loose about language, and so like. I find that it's interesting, like vulgarity occasionally is really helpful because for some reason, in certain things, polite language just doesn't work. And although almost always there's certain things where like I have a polite version of saying it and I watch, and there's just certain people not getting it, and I have to walk over to them one on one and be like, hey, I know you don't want to do it, but we're doing a leg lock, and I need you. So I'll tell you, I'll start actually, this is a great example. I'll give you the polite way. The polite way is I need you to make sure the seam of your pants is touching the back of his knee. Sure enough, does it, leaves about like 6 inches between. I need your crotch to touch the back of his knee. Still not doing it. Mind you, after these first two, every woman in the class is doing the technique correctly. There's always like 4 or 5 dudes who just don't. I'm like, your balls are going to touch the back of his knee. And they're like, oh, and then everyone does it right. But I don't want to start that way. I don't want to say it that way. But like for whatever reason, this is the seminar I've been teaching the longest. Leg Locks 101 was my first instructional. I've taught that seminar more than any other seminar. And universally across easily 10 different countries I've taught that seminar in, women will get it right when I say make the seam of your pants touch the leg or the crotch. It's only dudes. There's always 3 or 4 dudes that I gotta say your balls gotta touch the knee. And like, because and that's just a random example where I'll have to go there, but I try my best to be as polite because I want to be able to teach kids. The thing is, kids get it right. It's really just grown men that for some reason they just don't want to do it. But your leg locks are going to be loose and people are going to escape. And I'm trying to get you better. But it's an interesting little thing with language because oftentimes people are like, well, we need to be able to do this in as, PG way as possible. And I think that's fine, but I think going to the edge of what is appropriate for the environment is usually memorable and fun. I want to be silly. I want to be out there, be memorable. I don't need to randomly curse for no reason. I think that's useless, but I think that being strange, that might be vulgarity, it might just be like the fact that I like food. So almost all of my moves are food analogy based. This is your taco grip. This is your burrito grip. Like I ice cream cone grip, right? They're very food oriented. But and so like that's strange and people remember it. Or like I used to say, put your knee into orbit around their thigh. I find the cueing and language is so important, oftentimes more important than the exact thing. And especially now as I'm trying to be able to teach in every possible way. So if I go to a gym where they drill and drill and drill, well, I need to be able to teach in somewhat a drilling way, even though I'm not really big on drilling. On the other end, if I'm going to an ecological gym, I need to be able to design games and task-based constraints that make sense and can instruct the way these people are accustomed to being instructed. Or I'm going to come in and say, hey, I'm purposely diverging from what you're accustomed to, and here's why. So as a coach, I have to keep on evolving. It doesn't really matter if I don't like something. I have to be able to, make it a win-win. I have to be able to make it so that the people I'm here to help are getting what they came for. And hopefully, and more. That's always the goal is to, have people expect this much and give them more than they expected so that I have an impact. Like, when I come back after not seeing a group for a year or two and then they're doing some stuff from last time, I did my job.
No, it's makes sense. It's a good way to teach. And like I know like I've gotten to take a bunch of your classes as well, and they've been very good, especially like you said, you usually just warm up and you jump right into it. It's very uh efficient, I guess is the best way to put it, and everybody understands. But the one last thing I wanted to touch on, since I know you and I've had this
Yeah.
conversation, and me and Randy have talked about it quite a bit too, is being a black belt is more than just knowing your moves and being good at them, but like the treating people right. If you could kind of give advice to people out there who are pursuing their black belts for how to be a better person, what to kind of look for, and what kind of maybe some like looking inwards to see if
Oh, wow.
like what would you say to them, like what sort of advice would you give them to help become like this holistic black belt as opposed to just like skill based black belt.
How to be a holistic black belt. Wow. So you're asking, so this is actually an interesting one. So like, because a piece of me feels like as much as I can give advice on this, because I introspect about this actually a lot, not in the terms of being a black belt, but more in terms of just like wanting to be a man of substance, right? So um it's kind of like one of the guides I've always had as an internal compass has been like what would the man I want to be do in this scenario, right? When I'm having a hard time, because there's always the easy way, right? Like conflict avoidance is almost like, and it's always a double-edged sword, right? Because you don't want to cause conflict. You don't need conflicts for conflict's sake. But there are times when hard conversations need to be had, and there's always an easy way out. There's always a way that you can avoid having the tough conversation and just kind of kick the can down the road or let somebody else do it. Um, and so I guess what you're asking me is like, how, as a black belt, can I kind of have a moral responsibility? And I don't, it's very, very challenging because I think about like in jiu-jitsu in particular, we're at a really interesting time where it's almost getting divorced, right? So, and that being a black belt really is many different things to many different people. I think that when I did traditional martial arts, when I did American Kempo, it was very clearly part of it, right? Because I did it as a child and parents want their kids to gain all of these intangible capabilities. On the wall, it said respect, honesty, discipline, perseverance, loyalty, and all of these virtues. And as a child, I would be aspiring to exemplify those virtues in order to get my black belt in karate. And I always remembered that. And I tried to live that way. Now, mind you, almost all the hard part of like our internet era, almost like a era of the anti-hero is like almost all of the people that were preaching that end up being kind of full of it, right? Like my karate instructor growing up did not live by all of those tenets that we had on the wall. And I quickly realized as I got older, like I think I was the only idiot drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Like I looked around, I was just like everybody else is like, yeah, 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 I want to kick people in the head. And I was just like, but I need to be honest and show respect and discipline. Like I was a true believer back then. And I think that in terms of jiu-jitsu, for me, I think that you should be an asset to any room that you're in as a black belt. But this is just my view of it. And I don't think that, and there's a lot of black belts that don't live up to the standards that I set for myself. So I don't know if I can say these are black belt standards, but these are things that I set for myself that led me to a good place. So one of them was like, what kind of black belt do you want to be? You can be the competitor, you can be the coach, you can be the martial artist, you can be the researcher. For me, myself, I've always seen myself as a martial artist. And so to me, that means that these movements that I've learned in the various martial arts that I've dedicated my life to, well, they need to work in a combat situation. So as I'm learning what things to do, I can play sport and play games, but I should be able to handle a malicious opponent. And so as I went through traveling to places and people would have different rule sets, right? One gym, you can't do this, you can't do that. Other gyms are trying to take your head off. Other gyms, it's competition rounds. Other gyms, guys are elbowing you in the face by accident. Or you have like the big dude who's grinding his chin stubble on your face, trying to fillet your skin off. And I've always been the kind of person, especially in my 20s and through my early 30s, of being like, this, if my martial art fails when someone plays dirty, is it a martial art? Do I actually know it? So I would take other people's bad behavior and use it as a tool to help myself grow and become better so that my jiu-jitsu doesn't care if you're trying to cheat. Because if I'm ever going to fight someone, there aren't going to be rules. But that's my view because I've always had the self-defense thing. I did striking martial arts before. So a little bit of jiu-jitsu elbow or punch, like I've been things where people are trying to punch me in the face, so it didn't really scare me. So I'd say trying to look inward and be legitimate, meaning like I'm actively trying to improve my understanding of this martial art every single chance that I can. And I'm trying to also improve my personal grit, my perseverance, my will, my calm, my ability to see what the big picture is and like understanding what my place is. So just because you chose to take the low road and cat toss me an elbow at me or like try to hurt me doesn't mean that I need to do the same to you. It's my job to show you not just that I can beat you with jujitsu because I'm more skilled, but also that like there's a spirit behind it. And for, at least for me, there's always been like the part of martial arts that I loved was like the guy who wins and doesn't even look like he's trying. That was the version that I always aspired to. And so in the beginning, I was all athleticism, all breakdancing, backflipping, and I did it. And I was exhausted. Going into Globetrotters again, I was like, I want to be yes to everybody who asks and not die. And like by putting that challenge for myself, by trying to be legitimate, it helped. But also I understand that like there are chapters in my life that was very easy to do at 30. At 38, I'm understanding that like it's going to be harder. And the older I get, the more that like the kids are just getting better and better. But I now have to be humble that when one of my students or even somebody catches me in something, I can't act like a spoiled child and be angry because how dare a colored belt tap me out. Instead, I got to be like happy about it. there's something for me to learn. You found a hole in my game, or I'm out of shape. I can accept that I'm out of shape, or I can do something about it. Because understanding, like, I would have gotten out of that, but I'm exhausted. All right, well, I chose to roll exhausted because I thought that just my skill would be enough to deal with this person. Turns out they were better than I thought. And I don't have to get injured. So I'd say, like, yes, you want to roll with your students and try to beat them if that's, especially that's what they want. Learn how to roll many different ways. So whether it be a chess game, rolling for specific goals, I call them side quests, trying to get better, or like rolling, trying to teach your students something. That's one of my favorite things. Like I taught my fiance how to have balance by harassing her with a knee tap. I knee tapped her, must be 15 times in a row. And then finally she posted, she's like, stop that. I'm like, now you understand base. But it's also a fine line of understanding, like, I can do that to her, but there's other people in my gym. If I did that to them, they might start crying and feel like I'm a bully. And so all your different teaching methods have to be adjusted for your clientele. But I would say, like, just try to be the thing that you're pretending to be. I know, like, I think it's very easy to be like, just pretend like you're the greatest because you want something, you're this or that. But like, if you, okay, I want to advertise that I am the most well-researched gym in town, then I should actually do the thing that would make that true. I want to advertise that I have the ability to teach people of all levels. I should practice teaching people of all levels. I want to say that I have the most organized curriculum. I should put effort and time into that curriculum. Um, and I think the more that you add quality and depth to what you know, what you can convey, and how you can carry yourself and interact in mixed company, whether it be people of different orientations, different genders, different ages, different cultural backgrounds, it all adds to your capabilities. And then now you don't have to be afraid that one of your students might visit another gym and leave you. Because if your student leaves your gym because they went to another gym one time, that means that you're not giving them what they need.
Yeah, you said something there that I liked a lot. You said that you got to be the thing you're trying to be. And
Yeah.
it kind of hit me because, and I've heard it said before too, discipline comes from the truth you're telling yourself, right? So if you're honest with yourself and if you remove your ego from it, I think that takes away from a lot of the problems that we see in instructors. If you remove the ego piece, because it's not about, and you've said it, you got to be able to roll and train and do things differently with different students because different students have different needs, right? And I think a lot of times our egos get in the way, and that's where you get these horror stories of coaches and black belts. And whether you're a black belt who's set out to be a coach or you're a black belt who's set out to be a competitor, either way you look at it, you're a leader within the community of jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And so there's a heavy burden, a heavy responsibility that comes with that. So everything you're saying is spot on, man. I definitely agree. I got one last question for you.
Sure. Can I add just
This is an this is
one quick thing with that before we answer that question? Because I wanted to
yeah.
finish that off. I'm sorry that I rambled so long. That's why I warned you guys in the beginning. But it's the idea that, how am I going to put this succinctly? Um, hmm. You won't be afraid of losing students if you know that you're giving them your best and everything that you can. There's people who are going to be there for that. I think a lot of the problems in jiu-jitsu come from insecurity and fear, and that insecurity and fear is only because you think that there's not enough jujitsu, like not enough people for jujitsu. The better we make this thing called jujitsu, the more people will want to do it and the more positive a place it's going to be. There's enough jujitsu for you and the gym across town. There just is. Like, if we make jujitsu a thing that people want to do. That's all. You can go ahead.
No, I agree. I agree totally, man. I tell people all the time when they come visit the area and they're looking for a gym, I'm like, go down the street, check them out. Go over to this other gym, check them out. Come over here, check us out because every gym has a different vibe, right? And there's different personalities that are going to vibe with that. But my question for you, you mentioned in the very beginning that Ninja Turtles kind of gave you your kickstart,
Yep.
which I love Ninja Turtles. I know Rob does too. We're in the same boat. And I got my favorite, but I got to know who is your favorite Ninja Turtle and why?
I think you probably understand based on all my other answers that it's not going to be a simple answer because that's just not what my mind will ever let me do. So for the longest time, it was always Leonardo, just because he had two swords. I thought swords were cool, and he was the leader. Now I have friends that like Raphael who claim Raphael was the leader. I think they're mistaken. That's just my opinion. But I remember as kids we used to play Ninja Turtles, and they'd ask me which one I wanted to be, and I didn't want to be selfish and choose Leonardo because I thought that he was such the obvious best choice that I would always pretty much choose everyone but Raphael. I liked the nunchucks of Mikey, and I liked that he was funny, and I liked that Donatello was smart. I just felt like Raphael was always so angry for no reason. I just couldn't relate to him. Like he was so moody. But all my friends that were kind of like angsty, moody guys, they've all loved Raphael, and like he's the real leader. Leonardo's boring, and so like, and especially in the newer Ninja Turtles they've been coming out with, they've really made the new Leonardo kind of a bit of a dork. I'm kind of sad. Like they've taken him down a notch. Like OG Leonardo was legitimately a leader, and now they've got Leonardo being like I don't know. I saw the recent movie that had I think Seth Rogen in it with my niece and nephew, and I was very sad how they did Leo in this one. So the original Ninja Turtles, the I would say Leonardo, but pretty much Pantheon probably Leo tie between Donatello and Michelangelo because I feel like I like the intellect, but I also like the goofiness, and I can't decide. And then Raphael is last for me.
Did you ever hear the analogy that they gave the different weapons to the different Ninja Turtles based on their personality traits? So like
Ah,
they gave Raphael the size because of his temper, so he literally has the least deadly weapon of anybody else on the team.
yeah, that makes sense.
And they gave Michelangelo the nunchucks because he was goofy. And if you're goofy with nunchucks and you're not disciplined, you end up hitting yourself and hurting yourself. And
Yeah.
you can just keep going down the road. And the swords were because he's the most disciplined and the one that could actually control the heavy burden of having the most fatal weapon of the whole crew. So
I love it. Were you into the Intro's comic books? Because I've learned that the comic books were way different in tone
Oh yeah.
than the animated series. I haven't actually read them, but everyone I know who's read the comic books were like dark and heavy and like not for kids at all. Whereas all the
I'll have to
animated
read it.
stuff were made for kids. So I mainly just watched the animated stuff and the live action movie, but I've been meaning to read the comic books for years and I haven't gotten around to it.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it was
I'm a Michelangelo guy, but I never read the comics. So
yeah, it's
Yeah.
I think it's Kevin Eastman who did the comics, if I remember right. I read some of them, and yeah, it's like I think it's better I read them when I was older because I don't think you could sell a lot of toys. Mattel can sell a lot of toys with Leonardo stabbing people to do slashing and killing them and stuff like that, which is why this is my Ninja Turtles trivia. In the second movie, where was it Ernie Reyes Jr. was in it. Um,
Yeah.
they didn't use their weapons in that because parents were complaining that the Ninja Turtles in the first movie were using weapons and they were bad and whatever. So that's why you had Michelangelo using salami for nunchucks as opposed to actual nunchucks and stuff
Oh,
like that.
that is some fun. Ernie Reyes Jr., like what a he was like my favorite person as a kid just because he was actually a kid who did karate in California, and his dad being immensely ambitious like started like a little movie empire in the 90s there between that and like Surf Ninjas.
Yes. I love Surf Ninjas. Surf Ninjas
That
is one of
was
my favorite
such a
movies.
movie. I love that movie. It's one of those movies like I watched it as a kid though, and a lot of the movies I loved as a kid, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to go back and watch them because child actors are almost never good. But when you're a kid, you don't notice because you can't tell the difference between good and bad acting when you're a kid.
Yeah.
But like that and like Surf Ninjas and Three Ninjas, I haven't gone back to watch them just in fear of ruining my childhood.
No, I mean it makes I've done the same thing where I've tried something, I've gone back, I'm like, I remember how good this was. It's awful, dude. It's
Well,
terrible.
a few of
Like,
them hold up. Like, it's the interesting thing. Like, because I was really big on anime and like a lot of the anime that I watched. But then again, that was when I was a teenager and like they were kind of made for adults.
yeah.
Some of the old cartoons, you're like, oh, that's horrible. Oh, wow. But Some of it is also still beautiful. Like I still enjoy Cowboy Bebop. I still enjoy Samurai Champloo. I went back and watched Akira, and as an adult, I was like, this is really trippy. Like, I think as a kid, like it didn't mess me up, but as an adult, I'm like, what am I watching?
Yeah. A lot of hidden undertones there that you
Oh
don't pick
yeah,
up
as a
on the
kid, you're
first
just
time.
like, ooh, flashing lights.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, watching Akira when I was 10 and watching Akira when I was like 30, that's a big difference. So,
Yeah, very different.
well, I hate to cut this off, Charles, but I do appreciate you jumping on the show and chatting with us
No, this
again
was a
today.
blast. Yeah, I tend to do better on the longer ones because I do take forever to answer questions. So
No, it was
hopefully
great.
you guys had fun. I'd love to come see you guys sometime soon. Doing more USA travel, which means more opportunities to see you. I'll probably be in the North Carolina area by the end of the year. So maybe we can make a trip over to you as well.
That'd be awesome, man. And before we jump off, where can everybody find you? Like I know you said
All
you have
right, I am
Patreon. You
all
have,
over the place.
yeah. Let's hear it.
So my last name is spelled Harriott, but it's pronounced like a Marriott. So it's Harriott. And I pretty much have gotten that everywhere. So charlesharriott.com is my website. Patreon.com/Charles Harriott is my Patreon. So on the deal on the Patreon is that I will release custom videos and seminars that I teach at and all kinds of stuff going through there. At the two top levels, the $25 level, I make you a custom video and you have access to everybody else's custom videos. And then at the very top level, I do that and I give you a Zoom private lesson or phone call at your whichever one you like better once a month. And I have interesting people who enjoy doing that. I also do Zoom seminars, and so I'm kind of building that up. As of right now, I've got a gym in Germany where every month I do a 2 hour Zoom seminar and they have a camera in their gym and everyone shuffles through and I get to individually correct all the groups. It goes really, really well. And because I don't have to fly or travel to you, I don't have to charge you travel costs. And so it's much more affordable. Really been enjoying that. BJJ Fanatics, type in my name, Charles Harriott. I got 5 instructionals on there. If you're ever in Florida, I teach once a week at a gym called Rising Tide. I also go train at the Pedigo Submission Fighting Gym once a week there, and I promoted only my second ever brown belt, and he teaches. His name's Ryan Fleming. He teaches at High Springs Grappling, and I'll be out there. And besides that, the next seminars I'm going to be teaching at are going to be in Huntsville, Alabama. No, it's not exactly Huntsville. It's right outside of Huntsville. It's Pirate BJJ. I think it's actually Madison, Alabama, I want to say, with Seth and those guys on Labor Day is the next big seminar. And yeah, if you're in Florida, hit me up. Message me on Instagram. Same thing, Charles Harriott. I've got some YouTube videos at, once again, Charles Harriott. So all the places are just my name. If you message me jiu-jitsu related, I will respond just about anywhere. I like talking to people. Um, what else can I do? I guess why not? I'll give a coupon. So I'll give you a link in the show notes so you can give your listeners some amount of money off of a month of Patreon. I have no idea what it'll be, but we'll figure it out. So yeah.
Okay, sounds good. But Charles, seriously, thank you again, man. I do appreciate you jumping on the show and chatting with us. It's been a good
No,
time.
it's fun.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been another episode of the Big Jiu Jitsu Show. I'm Rob,
I'm Randy.
and we'll catch you guys next time.